Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knicks family. Welcome to the morning recap show. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and as always, we have a lot to talk about. Knicks went into Boston last night and got the doors blown off, basically losing by 25 points, I think it was. Um, I I thought it would be a tough game for the Knicks. Even without Tatum, you cannot simulate desperation, right? And they were definitely the more desperate team. And it's just human nature for the more desperate team to have more of an emotional edge. Doesn't mean the Knicks could not have won that game, but they would have had to overcome that, and they did not. We will talk about it more fully, but I'm gonna welcome Jeff Clafter from the Happily Ever Clafter Daily Sports Blog. Jeff, how you feeling this morning?
Kind of bummed, not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
you know, I've been living in the country for about 25 years now since I moved to Texas, and so my city folk may not understand this reference, but the Knicks are a house cat instead of an outside cat. You know, an outside cat, if you have mice or snakes or whatever, they take care of that business because they've got that killer instinct that they just get
Right.
a house cat. There'll be a mouse in the house and they're just like, yeah, I don't care. I've got my food. I'm going to sleep over here. I'm just going to
Right.
chill. You know,
Right.
so time and time again, when this team has their opponent on the ropes, from a series perspective,
Correct.
they
Understood.
just let go of the rope in these circumstances and cause extra games. I think this is like the fourth series in a row where when we've had an opportunity to clinch, whether it be at home or on the road, and we've just not done it. And those things add up. I can't necessarily explain it. It's like, I don't know that the Knicks didn't come ready to play last night. I thought, I didn't get to see the game, but from the highlights and from everything I've read and it didn't seem like we came out with a lack of energy or anything like that. It was, the game was tied at 59 at one point before, the Jalen Brunson foul parade started. But, our closer goes out of the game with 7.5 minutes left in the fourth or whatever it is. That's a little bit tough too, but I don't think we win that game even if Brunson doesn't foul out. And we got 40 free throws to their 26, so I'm not going to say the officiating is the reason we lost. It was certainly head scratching, some of the things that they did, but Boston got a lot of calls against them too. So
but fouls on Brunson in one quarter though.
Never heard of anything like that before for a superstar. Yeah. There's no way he should be getting that kind of a treatment. Shame on Tony Brothers and company. Yeah. You don't tip the scales of a game like that. Right. 5,000 a quarter. That's insane.
Quarter.
I don't.
Yeah. What do you think before? Since we're on the fouls, what is your thoughts on? Do you think Thibodeau? Do you agree or disagree with him leaving him in with the fourth foul, which I think was somewhere in the mid to late third quarter, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, this is a great philosophical debate, right? Because if he's sitting on the bench, you know what I mean? If you sit him down right there, then he's not playing anyway, right? And
right.
And you're saying, is it more important for him to be in the game now, like when we're down 14 and on the edge of losing the rope, or is it more important to just kind of ride out the storm and let him sit and then bring him back with 6 minutes to go? I tend to be of the thinking in the latter. I probably would have sat him down, but again, he trusts Brunson, and Brunson doesn't usually foul out of a game. I can't remember the last time Brunson fouled out of a game, and so that's kind of what makes this one like really he fouls out of this game and in this way, and some of those fouls, like especially the sixth one, like are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. Very strange
Yeah.
calls in that game last night. I know we were plus 14 at the line, so I can't gripe too much, but some strange calls in that game last night.
For sure. I think the decision for Tibbs to leave him in when he picked up his 4th foul and even his 5th wasn't egregious. It wasn't egregious. Usually when a player picks up their 4th foul, you do take them out. But there are certain circumstances where coaches would choose not to. And one of them is you trust your player not to pick up their 5th. You think about where the game is right now, and if I sit him on the bench, this game can really get out of hand. And then you also think about, well, who are we going to put in for him? Maybe losing a little trust in campaign over the course of the playoffs. Maybe not wanting to go with a McBride Bridges backcourt, so I don't think it was an egregious decision. I think it could go either way, but it's not uncommon for coaches in those situations to leave their best player in and just. I remember Pat Riley would say, and I know nobody wants to hear what Pat Riley has to say, but he would say, the officials know he has 4 fouls. The officials know he has 4 fouls. Like, they're not going to give him a ticky tack. Well,
Pat Riley is a liar.
I don't think it was egregious, but I was wondering if can we sit him down and steal a few minutes? But I'm not that high on campaign right now either. Yeah, I think it could have went either way. I don't know if we want to get into Thibodeau right off the bat. But I mean, listen, let's just do it. I don't think that was the worst call, the worst decision Tom Thibodeau made last night. I think that 3rd quarter team that was just floundering, couldn't get anything going offensively. Boston hitting shot after shot, just couldn't get stops, and staying with that team. Even calling a timeout earlier. Like, sometimes if you're going to even stay with the same team, just call a timeout, trying to stop the bleeding, refocus everybody, or give them an opportunity to refocus themselves if you're going to come back with the same lineup. But no timeout. Then there was a timeout after they were up by, I don't know, 68, and then roll the same lineup back out. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, substitution patterns are what they are. I mean, it's a weird thing with this Knicks squad. The starters are like -7 in net rating, and we're the most played lineup in the league in the postseason. And so, to me, like, it doesn't matter who you decide to sit. Just put one of those bench guys with the other starters, and everything seems to go much better. So I don't know. I don't necessarily have an answer for that. Maybe to me, I guess it's spacing, the Josh Hart effect. I'm not real sure. I mean, Hart hit 5 threes last night. Is that the night where you say, Josh, you're going to sit down? But here's the thing. OG Anunoby disappeared again last night. He was awful, and Bridges wasn't much better.
You got to show up to disappear.
Okay,
you gotta be there first in order to disappear, right?
Okay, my bad. You're right. But you can't have those two shoot 5 for 20. Cat with his 11 shots again. Just lack of attention to detail, terrible defense in all 4 quarters, by the way. We're lingering on the 3rd quarter, but that's when the Knicks stopped scoring. It's 59 all, and then Boston went on that run. But Boston they missed the 30-point mark in 1 quarter last night, and that was the 2nd, I believe, and they had 29. So you get postseason victories are about getting stops, and we didn't get stops all night long. So
yes, and timely shots.
yeah.
But you got to be in the game for a shot to be timely, right? you gotta
Let's make a timely shot from the bench.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, fair. That's fair. I mean, when you look at Boston, they had multiple contributors. They had 6 players in double figures. They got a performance for the ages, if you will, from for Luke Cornett, who came in off the bench and was huge for them and just kind of finished out the game. We didn't even see Porzingis for the rest of the game, if I'm not mistaken. He was close to a triple double. Cornett, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 7 blocks. This is what the Knicks got in game 4. Contributions from multiple players. And this is what we were asking for the series, right? We finally got it in game 4 to close out in Boston, a desperate team. And probably even are we going to win one for Tatum? That might have been part of it as well. And to come in and listen, Jeff, you come in, you fight, you claw, you lose a close game in Boston. You could say, you know what? I mean, listen, they had the edge. I get it. We'll be back. But to lay an egg, to not have everyone show up and contribute, nah, you can't. You can't have that.
Do you want some good news, though?
Yes, please.
Okay. The Knicks tend to respond very well after a loss, and especially after a blowout loss. And it's tougher for role players like Luke Cornett to replicate those performances on the road. I know Boston has their, they wave their magic 3-point shooting wand. They have the magnet and the ball and all that stuff at MSG. And I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but and I know this is a recap show, but part of me just wants to flush this game down the toilet.
I know.
And just get on to game 6. But I mean, Brunson was 7 of 17 from the field. He didn't play the last 7.5 minutes. I mean, there's definitely context, but it was just, I don't know. Sense of urgency is right, because they came out and they looked good early on. I mean, like I said, they were up 42-33, and it felt like, okay, that's a good place to be in. That's not the end of the game by any stretch of the imagination. That's just 3 possessions. But then from that point on to get outscored by 34 is, I mean.
Yeah. And then we weren't switching. Like, I don't know what our offensive philosophy was going into that game. I don't know what our defensive philosophies, schemes were going into the game, right? Some games it's just readily apparent. Oh, we're switching. Like, oh, what are we doing? Like, what's the, and again, this is a different team without Tatum, right? They're going to play differently. You know who the team is by game 5, right? They take out their best player. Usually more players do get involved, right? Usually the ball does move more freely because there's one less person dominating the ball, right? So, that happens. But I just feel like the Knicks were caught off guard.
It's almost like Tibbs was like, oh, well, Tatum's not in the game, so I can go back to the drop schemes that I'm so comfortable with. No,
you can't.
Switch everything. Make it even harder for them. Their star player can only go with one hand. Like, put OG on him, make him go to the left, and he's not going to get 26 points. Like, I'm sorry, but this shouldn't be that tough. And switch everything. The switching is critical, because when we get in rotation and we give up these, Derek White should never be left open. And I think he shot 13 threes last night and made 7 of them.
And I'm pretty sure if we tracked them, if we looked at the stats, they were no Nick within 6 feet, wide open.
Yeah. And that's what should disappear when Tatum's not in the game. That's what should That's what you shouldn't see. And the Knicks, just no sense of urgency, no killer instinct, just
No
just another
fight.
game. Let's
Yeah, no fight. Like, yeah. I mean, yeah. I was gonna part of it. I think when it comes to OG is he's somebody that can be taken out of the game offensively, and Bridges is someone who takes himself out of the game offensively, right? And that's what happened. That's what happened last night. Those two were nowhere to be found. And then the Knicks, as far as winning on the margins, rebounds -4, points in the paint -10, second chance points only -2, but -5 fast break points. Like you can't be giving up. You got to limit the fast break points. Obviously, points off turnovers, that was pretty much even, 11-12. Turnovers 10-8. Relatively even.
The overall field goal percentage, though, we shot like 30% and they shot 50%. Like
Yeah,
both teams, and not only that, but both teams shot really well from three, but I think made 10 and they made like 19 or something like that. So,
yeah,
there's huge disparities all across the board. The Knicks didn't really win any category convincingly. I mean, yeah, like I said, they 32 out of 40 at the line, I guess, is what kept us even as close as we were, which wasn't very close.
yeah. We shot 36%. They shot 52%,
I mean,
and they shot 45% basically from three.
on 50 attempts or 49 attempts.
49 attempts. They only took 33 twos and still was plus 10 in the paint. you know? Yeah, Gerald, I did think Tibbs got out coached, but I also think the players got outplayed as well. I think it was both. I think for Tibbs, when you talk about schematics or lack thereof, or I couldn't see him. I'm pretty sure there was. I couldn't see it myself. And rotations, substitutions, absolutely. But then the players also have to play and they have to show up, and that didn't happen. So it was just like a shit bomb all around from top to bottom. Everybody on the Knicks were negative plus minus. Everybody who played. The bench was less, right? -9 for
because they had less minutes, not because they were
right.
like if they had played more minutes, they would have had the same negative impact. Like I actually do wish they had played Deuce more.
Yeah. I mean, he played 28 minutes last night, which is probably the most he's played in this series. But I do think, in the third quarter, we could have, looked to put either one of or both in just to see what happens. Yeah. I do want to talk about Towns before we move on to game 6, because I'm with you. I almost DM'd you and said, you know what, let's just save this for the weekly show. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. Towns is frustrating me a little bit. And I get what you're saying, Jeff. He only got 11 opportunities. They need to pass the ball to him more. It's becoming almost like a hit or miss when you give the ball a 10. Like, yes, he's getting fouled. I just need him to stand upright and be efficient in his movements. I just feel like he's just wobbling and he's just like all over. I don't know. I was gonna say I'll watch it again. I don't think I'm gonna watch that game again. I need Towns to be more efficient in his movements. You get it, you're gonna shoot it, you're gonna take a quick drive, you're gonna post, you're gonna turn around, you're gonna make it. All of this trying to get position, him trying to listen, I get his size. We don't want him taking turnaround jumpers. You're 7 feet. Why are you fading away? I get that part, but at least it's an efficient movement. When he starts backing people like the ball is this high and and we talk about Josh Hart. There are 1 or 2 plays per game that are just, in my opinion, bold-headed plays from Towns as well. 1 or 2 a game. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know. I don't. Jeff, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, I think with Towns, he's just not a traditional back to the basket physical center. Like, that's not who he is. He's a finesse scorer. Even on his, as you pointed out, even on his post shots, it's usually to a fadeaway or something that's almost non-contact, if you will. And so, yeah, it's real frustrating. And you know, you getting outplayed by Luke Cornett is not that was not on my bingo card for sure. But we need Towns to perform better. But again, this was a failure across the board. Nobody played well. So if we want to single out Towns, we can. He's been maddening this postseason. I absolutely agree. I'm not really sure what the solution is to that. I don't like why is he so inconsistent when it comes to these playoff minutes? Why? I mean, it just seems like he's been getting a bad whistle all season long. Like, you should be used to it by now.
Fair.
Like, why are we you know, letting that get in our heads and not focusing? You know, and the defense was bad last night too. I mean, he was much better in Game 4. He did a really good job of coming out on Tatum a couple times, and you know, but last night there's just very little good to be said of any of them. And Towns is, I mean, when you have 3 of your top 5 players in Towns, Bridges, and OG, who were absolute no-shows, in my opinion, is no wonder you lost by 25 points. I mean,
yeah. Look,
Boston is dangerous. They have, you know, they still have a couple of all-stars in that lineup. You know, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown are all really good players. I mean, we didn't even have to worry about Kristaps last night. He's been a non-factor because of whatever it is that's ailing him. I wish him well. I hope he gets better next season. I don't want to see him again in this playoffs. But, you know, guys like Peyton Pritchard and, you know, Sam Hauser with 2 for 5 from 3. I mean, you know, they're getting better performance from their bench players than we're getting from our starters, who are allegedly borderline all-stars, or in Cat's case, an all-star. And so that can't happen if you're going to close out a series. And hopefully it's better on Friday. That's all. You know, I said this to you before the show, and I think it's true. If we're going to win this series, we're doing it on Friday. We go back to Game 7 in Boston, the pressure on this ball club will crack it. I'm almost certain of that.
Yeah. You know, shout out to the chat rocking with us. Mitch shot 6 for 6 from the foul line, and Hart with 5 threes, and we couldn't capitalize on that.
Yeah, I don't know. 25. Like, what is happening here?
I don't know when the stars are going to align again. Curtis DeYoung, appreciate you. Celtics were definitely targeting their offense towards Brunson after halftime. Yeah. Andrew K, appreciate you. The pressure is going to build if the Knicks are trailing in the second half Friday, but Brunson and Bridges are up to it. I mean, which Bridges are we going to get? You know, and I like the fact that you're kind of putting, it's interesting, you put Bridges in there instead of Cat. So I think some belief is building in Bridges. But the more he has these types of performances like he did in Game 4, the higher the expectations are going to be for him, you know? And he didn't show up last night. Paris Duggar, if we don't get someone to coach Cat in games to remind him where and how to get his offense, we'll never get it. Listen. Cat's been in the league for 26 years. At this point, we gotta pull him aside, and we gotta coach him through the game like this is bitty basketball. Like, look, this is where you get your shots. When they do this, you gotta do, and this is what you gotta do continually throughout the game. Paris Duggar, if that's who Cat is, and if that's what Cat needs, we got the wrong person on this team. Now, if you're saying that the team should be cognizant of getting him the ball and where to get him the ball and to not go away from it. I agree with that. If you're saying that Cat needs to be more involved, and part of it is on him to get himself involved, I agree with that. But if you're talking about constant reminders throughout the game, then we got the wrong person. We got the wrong person. Like, nah. Mm-mm. Yeah. Yeah. He went 6 for 6 and did the night celebration on the 6th one. He was locked in. Yeah, he did. Oh boy. All right. Anything else from last night's game? Jeff?
Just very disappointing. I don't have very much else to say about it. I mean, we just got dominated. That's the only thing you can say. We got, from third quarter on. And that, I guess that's what I want to say, is that I wish these Knicks would put together a game where they played 4 quarters of good basketball. We have not seen that yet this playoffs, much less this series. But
do you think Boston has something to do with it, or you think it's just the Knicks process hasn't been good?
Boston may have something to do with it, but the Detroit series was the same situation. So, I mean, and maybe Detroit had something to do with it too, but again, you look at the fourth quarter of game 4 and how we were clicking on all cylinders. We were getting to the bucket. We were getting all kinds of good looks in the paint. They couldn't stop us. And then, again, first half, we looked good. And then the third quarter, it was just like somebody tripped on the cord and unplugged the television, and that was it. Like, what are we doing here? So to me, from what I've seen, and I could be wrong, I think that the solution is to double big lineup, or either double big lineup or having McBride in with the starters, depending on who you want to sit. I think those are the 2 most effective combinations that the Knicks have right now. I can't explain why. That's just what the numbers seem to tell me. And so I think we have to lean more into that and not be so stubborn and rigid with our starting unit. And even if you want to have them be the starting unit, roll them out there for 4 minutes, and then let's get the substitutions rolling quicker and earlier. Don't dig yourself a big hole. It's too hard.
But they didn't. They were 59-59. But in that third quarter, though, once you see the game getting away from you, you got to move quick in these playoffs. So I agree with you. If you're not going to start them, you got to have they got to be on a short leash. A short leash before you make a substitute. They're going well. All right, maybe we can stick with our usual rotations. Oh, things are going south. We got to make a change. So yeah, in that respect, I agree with you. If he doesn't want to change the starting lineup, that's the next best thing. Yeah.
We're really famous for saying the right things. Like if you go into a post game, or a pregame interview, Tibbs saying that, yeah, we've got to come out and focus 48 minutes. And, Brunson always says the right things. Hart always says the right things, but not what you say, it's what you do. And consistently what we do is not matching up with the rhetoric that we have pre and post game. Attention to detail, being sharp on the defensive end. Like the defensive performance was absolutely atrocious last night. And you don't defend, you lose games. And, I get the desperation. I know they're heart of a champion. I was with you. I thought this was going to be difficult to win, but that second half was sure disheartening for us, and it's got to give them a lot of confidence moving forward for Game 6 at MSG.
Yeah, and difficult to win, Jeff, doesn't mean getting blown out.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yeah, it's gonna be difficult to win. They're the more desperate team, their best player is not. Everybody's gonna show up. Everybody's gonna be locked in and focused. I get all of that. It's not gonna be an easy game, but you gotta show up. Unless you're telling me that they were just defensive juggernauts and just took everybody out the game. I don't know about that.
I find that
Oh,
hard to believe. Tatum's one of their best defenders. Like,
right.
and we eviscerated them just the fourth quarter before. Like we were elite. We showed what the offensive potential of this team is, and then we didn't show any of that last night. It's head scratching, really. But it is what it is. You're in a dogfight. You gotta, get this next one.
So if I heard you correctly earlier in the show, you're of the mindset that Game 6 is a must win for the Knicks.
Absolutely.
Like the chances
Absolutely.
of them going into Boston and winning a Game 7 is low.
In my opinion, yes.
I would agree with that. I would agree
Well,
with that.
but you know what else I kind of thought, it's been kind of this thing that we haven't closed out a game on our home floor since 1999, which is the last or whatever it was, and maybe before that, but and we haven't been to the Eastern. So why not clinch it on our home floor and have a big party and they get ready for Indiana on Wednesday or wherever it's going to be? I'm okay with that storyline. Just make it happen, Knicks. I do not want to live in a world where we blow a 3-1 lead without Tatum in the lineup. The David Portnoys of the world will be unbearable if that happens. I don't want to fathom that. So take care of business, Knickerbockers. Please, 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 please.
And listen, in terms of the emotional edge, it might be equal. The Knicks really wanting to close out, not go back to Boston for a Game 7, and Boston doing whatever they can to force a Game 7, feeling pretty confident that if they do, they can beat the Knicks at home. So as far as the emotional edge, I think it's going to be equal on both sides, but it also comes down to the performance. It comes down to the schemes. It comes down to the rotations. Like everybody, top to bottom, have to be on point tomorrow night. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, OG. We need you.
Yeah. 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 Shout out to Ajay. This series is over tomorrow. Ever the optimist. But I agree with you. Keith Turner, appreciate you, my guy. Got to win Game 6. It's definitely a must win. JJ, we lack a killer instinct. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you could lose that game, but it's like you're not out of it going into the you know what I mean? Like you could lose the game, but you just put up more of a fight. I would feel much more comfortable right now if the Knicks put up a fight and lost late than the way they lost. Drip Moore with the Kentucky Fried Chicken reference. We got to play extra crispy on Friday. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. All right. Quick keys to the game or what you're looking for tomorrow night in order to close this out.
Switch everything. I'm going to say it till I'm moving. Switch everything. Force them into difficult threes, and you can't give Derek White. You can't let him go off and have wide open shots. You pressure Jaylen Brown make him go left. Every time you got to, it's got to start on the defensive end. You got to stay out of foul trouble, be smart, and guard. And I think if they will just do that, I think so often our offense is predicated on our defense. Like it's when they miss shots, so we're able to get out and run some and get into some transition points and set up some offense before they're in the half court defensive sets, which they're still very good at because they're still very long. But if we can do that, that's going to help us increase our percentage, attack offensively, and all of those sorts of things. We got to get Cat going. We got to make it a point. I know they say the game, make it a point. Force feed him the ball in a little bit if you have to. Just get him some touches early, get him some buckets early, get him going, because that's going to help us out a lot. So those are some of my keys to the game. But OG, we need you, bro. You can't have 1 for 10 again. And Mikal, we can't have 4 for 14 again. Like, these guys have to step up and just be a star in your role. I'm not saying we need 25 points from either one of those guys, although that would be nice. It's an odd stat, but I think when OG shoots the ball 18 times, the Knicks are undefeated. So, maybe get OG going, but you're only doing that if, you have to set him up. He's not going to do that.
Right.
He's not just going to create those shots on his own. So a lot of that is incumbent upon, what else we're doing defensively, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, I can get into schemes, I can get into this, I can get into that, and the Knicks are really good after losing, after a loss. Thibodeau is good in terms of making adjustments from game to game, even if he's not super crispy, the word of the day, during games, though he's been much better during games in this postseason. He'll be ready with the game plan for tomorrow as well. But at the end of the day, it comes down to players showing up. Players showing up. How many plays was drawn for Luke Cornett last night? He just showed up. You know what I mean? He just showed up. So players need to show up. I'm confident the coaching staff, Thibodeau, the game plan is going to be ready tomorrow. I'm pretty confident in that. It's pretty good, like I said, game to game. Okay? The players have to show up. Thibodeau do need to be on point during that game as well. But the players have to show up. You gotta hit open shots. You gotta stick to the game plan, whatever it is, as far as our defensive schemes are, and not go rogue. I think at some point schemes are out the window. At some point, all of this adjustment stuff is, at some point, somebody has to step up and take the game. And I know for all of this the statalytics out there, people, that sounds too, wishy-washy. But at some point, the players have to step up and take the game. And that's what we're going to need. That's what we're going to need tomorrow. Multiple contributions, players showing up all around. All right, we got a super chat before we get out of here. Paris Duggar, I know we looked awful last night, but if Jaylen Brown and Holiday blasting through screens, committing at least 15 fouls, yet Brunson fouls out, is crap. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to channel my inner Ajay, and, the Knicks did get more free throws than Boston. But the Knicks could have got 60 free throws last night. They could have got 60 free throws last night. And even though 26 free throws, only 26 was called on Boston, they missed a lot. They missed a lot of.
It's like in football when Pete Carroll coached the Seahawks and he coached his defensive backs to pass interfere on every play and make the refs call it. That's what I kind of felt like the Celtics did last night. You know what I mean? Make them call it. They're going to call a bunch of them, but they're not going to call all of them. And we'll live with we'll live with what we get. And it worked. I mean,
Yeah. 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 All right. Yeah. Anyway, tonight we have our weekly show, so definitely tune in, 9 p.m. We'll talk more about this game. We'll talk more about the series. We'll talk more about the next game that I'm with Jeff. We have to close out. Game 6, we'll talk about that and anything else that comes up. Any last words? Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the replay gang. Shout out to the silent listeners out there. We see you. Appreciate you. Any last words, Shah?
Let's get it tonight. It's going to be an interesting show, and let's close this out on Friday. That's all I got.
All right. Until tonight, fam.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Don't so.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't so.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't